Hey guys, welcome to the other side of Flip That Contract. I'm George Roddy.
Tim Harridge.
Hey, here's what we want you to do. Down below, we have the wholesale checklist. What we want to do, what we want you to do is actually print it out and lay it in front of you, because we're going to go through it step by step on exactly how to work a wholesale deal. So do us a favor, print that out now, and we'll go through it.
All right, so hopefully you've already printed the form off and you've got it in front of you, or you've got it up on your screen. At any time during what George and I are saying, at the bottom of this page, enter any questions or comments, anything you have, anything you would like to say to us. Click on like on Facebook. You'll get your updates via Facebook, and George and I will interact with you and answer any questions. I want to talk about the appointment first, George.
Right.
A lot of people aren't prepared for the appointment, and there's this phrase called offer submitted in person.
Okay.
And I've found that in my 1,000+ houses, when I make an offer to you face to face, you're much more likely to tell me what you really think if I'm not over the phone. So there's a couple things you need to do in order to do that. First, you've got to take comps with you. And comps are comparable sales, not active listings, that when you're on your way to the property, you go drive past the property, you drive around the neighborhood, and you make sure you've got an apples to apples comparison. You're same style house, same neighborhood, etc.
Yeah, and you got to get a feel for the neighborhood. I mean, we're in front of a house, and basically what I did was just that. I printed out all the comps. I want to see the high end, the low end, because I want to go look at these houses and see this property right here backs up to the first thing out of your mouth was, I like the house, I don't like the location. So we don't know necessarily the good and the bad, and so that's why we have to look at these comps, know the market, drive the houses before we go on this appointment.
Yeah, definitely. And then you want to bring contracts with you. I'll never forget, it's happened to me dozens of times. I get to the house, I make the offer, and the seller looks back at me and they say, okay, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And then you're rummaging through your stuff and you don't have a contract or you don't have the addendum, and that type of lack of preparation, you want to be able to nail them on the spot. You want to get them, once they say yes, they're happy with your offer, you're happy with the offer you made, right. You want to document it. And go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, part of this business is being comfortable and confident. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely.
And so it kind of lends itself into section number 2. And section number 2 is the contract and the addendums and the disclosures and how to fill those out. You were mentioning, when do we deposit the earnest money?
Yeah.
I mean, there is the TREC and the Texas real estate laws, you don't really have a contract until you do certain things. So we've got to paper this deal up the right way. And we're going to give you all the tools and tricks and nuances on how to do that in Flip That Contract. But I'm very comfortable and confident when I'm sitting at the table and the homeowner says, I'm ready to do it. Yeah, because I've got all the forms.
And you don't want to try to learn those forms at the table.
No.
You want to be confident in the way you can explain them and walk the seller through, because you can lose a seller in the contract period while you're filling it out if you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And little things, making sure you know where to make them initial, get them to sign, and where to put dates and where not to put dates, and which boxes to check.
Absolutely. All right, so probably before we sat down at the kitchen table, Tim, right, the seller and I probably was walking around the property, and the third section is pictures. Pictures, and the fourth is videos.
Yeah.
How because you're packaging up this deal to the masses, and we're a visual type of person. We want to see what you're actually selling. So bottom line is you've got down 5 interior photos, yep, and then you've got 2 exterior. So and we're going to give you the websites when you're packaging your deal up. We're going to show you, here's the form we want you to use, and we call it the POP, the POP, the Property Overview Packet. And it's going to have a section for a link to all the pictures, and more importantly is videos. That's number 4. Is I love walking through the house. I love looking at videos for my students, from our Flip That Contract students that walk through the property and show me, and they don't even have to say anything, just walk through the property.
Well, George, you actually buy houses from students.
That's right.
Routinely.
Yeah.
And part of this is George and I both actively buy houses, and we know that when we get an email from a student, we know it's going to be done properly. Inside pictures, exterior, front, back, and a walking tour of the house, so that we don't waste their time,
yeah,
and so they don't waste ours.
Absolutely. The fifth thing is access.
Access.
Having access to the property, and I think it's important that we alert and educate our seller that, look, we are trying to sell this property, whether we sell it in the next 2 days or after we fix it up, but we've got to have access to the property, and they need to understand that. And so getting a lockbox, talking to them about, can I get a key? Do you mind if I put a lockbox? Or if I can, if they don't feel comfortable, we need to get phone numbers, and because you know how this business works, we're trying to shop this contract and flip this contract to another buyer. We've got to have access to show it on a moment's notice.
And part of flip that contract is the addendums, and we're going to provide them the addendums. So what you'll have is this addendum on the back of the contract that says the seller is aware that you're going to market and show the property prior to closing. And it's very important to explain that and make sure they understand you're not going to inconvenience them, but if they don't get you inside the house in a timely manner, it could hold up closing. So we're going to provide you these addendums and walk you through explaining them, and I never have a problem with that when you explain it right up front.
All right, so the seller basically agreed. We all agreed. We got it papered up. We talked about access to the property and how we're going to get in the property. The next is marketing. And marketing is marketing your deal to the masses, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we've got to get this deal out to the world. And so how are we going to do that? And flip that contract, there are websites and there are tools and tips and tricks on how to get it on a number of different websites for free. And so it's just basically the template. And we wrote down, hey, write it up and have some kind of template that you use. Obviously, we have templates for you to use, but we're giving you kind of an overview of, look, if you did nothing over just watching this video, is get some type of template that you can go by.
Well, you'll hear me talking a lot in these videos about being consistent. And the thing about consistent marketing when you're trying to sell a house is if you put the same thing on every web page and in every email blast, you don't have to worry about saying something that's going to contradict what you already put out there. Yeah. So it's all about being consistent, which will build credibility.
All right, documenting the sale. So now we're going into, and again, this is a real 30,000 foot overview. So we're going to dig into it, and believe me, we're going to give you step-by-step procedures and flip that contract. But now let's talk about, we found a buyer.
Well, I'm going to talk about the importance of documenting the sale, and I say this a lot, and I think they teach it in every real estate class there is. Typically, in real estate, buyers are liars. And
wait a minute.
Now, I'm just saying, typically.
Oh, okay.
So what you want to do is, if you've ever been to a fast food restaurant, you've heard the fries hit the grease, and it sounds like it would sting. Well, there are people out there that will tell you they have cash and they'll buy this house from you next Friday, and they have no intention of doing it. And we're going to teach you how to protect yourself.
They know a guy who knows a guy who can do that. Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, oh well.
Yeah.
And we're going to teach you how to basically get these people on the hook to where they're financially and legally committed to perform on that contract, because you have to protect yourself, your asset, which in this case is that precious real estate contract, and ultimately the money that you intend to make.
Yeah. All right, so Tim, the last two sections are tracking the closing and actually closing at the title company. Right. So talk to me a little bit about that as far as the mechanisms. What do you do, and convey that to the viewers right now?
Well, as I just talked about, one of my big things is not getting dropped in the grease. Mm-hmm. And there's certain things you can do with your purchase contract and with your assignment to the buyer to protect yourself. One thing is, I always write a 30-day contract when I buy the house, because I never want to overpromise and underdeliver. I always prefer to underpromise and overdeliver. And so what you do is, George, if I have a 4-week contract,
right,
I'll give the buyer 2 weeks, the investor 2 weeks to close.
Yeah.
So that I know, and if you've never done a wholesale deal, trust me, it'll happen. A buyer will have all cash and ready to close,
right,
and the day before closing, they don't answer their phone, and
right,
it just happens. So you want to protect yourself from that. So you back in, you give yourself time to where if the buyer falls through, or the buyer's lender decides not to fund the property,
right,
you're able to remarket it and wholesale it to someone else, and you haven't overpromised.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the due diligence that you do if there is financing involved, is talking to the buyer, the end buyer's lender, and making sure that we're all on the same sheet of music, that look, we haven't owned this property for the last 2 years, and are there going to be any underwriting snafus that will occur because of that?
Well, we're going to teach you the different kinds of financing that you can actually consider when you're wholesaling a house. Because if someone, George, if you're doing an assignment and someone comes to you with an FHA contract, do you even look at it? No, because it's just not going to work.
Right. We just know that there's certain guidelines, there are certain loans and that are not going to work. The underwriter's going to kick it out. So you need to understand that, and that's part of the competence, that's part of the education that you're going to get here to flip that contract. So at closing, do you go to closings?
I go to every closing. I go to the closing with the buyer and the closing with the seller.
You guys all sit?
No, it's two separate closings.
Okay,
and
all right.
Here's why. With the seller, I want to make sure that everything on the settlement statement meets their expectations. I want to make sure they're happy. I want to make sure they're going to refer me to their friends or anyone else they ever meet that needs help with real estate. And then with the investor, here's my opportunity to make a client for life. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to the closing with the investor and make sure that he's happy with the fees the title company charges. Make sure that he gets the keys and the possession is taken care of the way that I promised it would be. Because the next time, if that investor's happy, the next time I have a deal, I can pick up the phone, call him direct, and if he was happy, he's going to take my call and get out there real quick.
Good. Hey guys, I hope you learned a little bit. Again, if you have any questions, post your questions down below, and please do us a favor and check the I like button on Facebook. We'll answer any questions that you guys have in a timely manner, and I guess wait for the next installment. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about walking a property. We're going to walk them through a couple properties, take you on the road with me, driving some comps, and go over the investor toolkit. So stay tuned, and we'll be in touch real soon.